Karen, welcome to the
Hey,
show. Well,
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to see your beautiful, pretty, happy faces.
hi. And yours and
Likewise.
your dope ass background. It looks so good.
Oh,
For
thank
our
you.
listeners who can't see it, we'll definitely be posting a screenshot of this beautiful, magnificent woman and her background. But
Mm,
you're going to see lots of this event and this thing that we're going to be talking about in this episode. So thank you, Karen, so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
so I guess to start things off, Karen, so I guess we're here to talk, of course, about a project that you've been working on for a while now. I believe the last time I saw you was when you were you were over here filming a little bit for it. I guess tell us about it.
Tell us about the show.
Okay. Well, that's a lot to unpack. I don't know where to start, but I can tell you where it all began is when I retired, I thought, what am I going to do to fill my days? Because I was doing three jobs. I'm an international host mom. I was a coordinator for a fundraiser. It's a girl thing, the original since 2003. And then Rogers Media Communications rep, which involved scheduling for Hockey Night in Canada and so on and so forth. So very, very busy. Now all of a sudden I'm retired. So many people say, I can't wait to retire. I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to do that. And so here I am. Woohoo. So I thought, well, first of all, what I have to do is I have to do what makes me happiest. So I dug down and I looked and I thought, when was I the happiest in my life? And the time that I was the happiest in my life is when I was in my 20s. I was volunteering at Fundy Cable, and they gave me a whole television cruise. And what I did is with this crew, I went out and I interviewed the people that knew Miller Britton, the artists. I talked to Mitchell Franklin, who went to war with them. I talked to Fred Ross, who was an artist that worked with them. I talked to all these people that were associated with Miller Britton, and it was just a great project and it was a lot of fun. And I just remember at the time thinking, could life be any better than having your own television crew and just going out and telling the stories? And it was wonderful. So I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a film. So what are you going to make a film about? And at the time, living in uptown St. John, so many of my friends said, why would you ever leave your home with the view of the Bay of Fundy, listening to the waves, to go uptown? It doesn't make sense. And I said, well, because uptown is a really happening place. And it's a really happening place because I would find that there would be days during the week where I didn't know where I was going to go. There were so many things going on. Um, and I think you know that as uptown girls as well. Is it uptown or is it downtown or is it overtown?
All of them.
All of them.
Okay.
I
So,
was
so I thought, well, the reason uptown living is so much fun is because there's so many things like art galleries to go to. There's things like the farmers market in the summer, the city market in the winter. You don't even need a car. You can just every day walk outside your house, and there's just so many cool happening things. So, why is it such a cool place? It's such a cool place because of the creative community. The creative community being the St. John Theater Company, Imperial Theater, um, the people that put together some of these music festivals like Area 506, like the Quality Block Music Festival. Um, it's just the place to be. And that's why I think there's this big thing going on with people raising the rents and everything if they have a building, because if you have a home out in Quispamsis and you're retiring, sell it for $400,000 or whatever it might be, go into town and you've got a beautiful condo and you can walk everywhere. So saying all of that, that's another thing. Do you want to interrupt me anytime?
keep
No,
going.
keep going. I'm in.
I feel like I'm going, well, I'm just saying, uptown is really the place to be. Like, I'm definitely an uptown girl. The theme song for my ex-husband was Uptown Girl by Billy Joel. He used to sing that to me. And whenever I hear uptown, I go, well, am I an uptown girl or a downtown girl or an overtown girl? All of the above.
Mm.
So what makes uptown, overtown, downtown? It's the creative community that makes it what it is. You can have beautiful places to live, but if you don't have places for your children to go, like the interaction performing arts, if you don't have all of the things that we have that we enjoy downtown, it wouldn't be that great of a place, would it?
No, that's
Absolutely.
That's facts.
Those are the things that make a community livable and vibrant, right?
Mm-hmm. So knowing all of that, I thought, well, the reason why Uptown St. John is so cool is because of these hit makers and these creative chance makers like yourself. You're shedding light on the music industry, and you're highlighting people that do amazing things with music that we wouldn't know about if you didn't take the time. And this is your volunteer time. Like, nobody's giving you this great big fat paycheck and saying, let's go doing it. You're doing it because of your passion and because this is something that you really enjoy and you love, and you're sharing with your community the love for music, right?
Mhm.
So knowing all of this, I thought, who am I going to go see? And I had so many people I didn't even know who I was going to pick. There were so many. So I picked 20 people, and some of the people were Clyde Ray. Clyde Ray is the artist in residence at the St. John Theater Company, who presently is doing a story on We Were Here that we know about on the Black community, which is amazing, some of the things that they've done. And it's really important that we know that. When I interviewed Clyde, it was at the Pomodori Pizza, is it Pomodori? And in the background were pictures on the wall beside Tondi's restaurant of some of the movers and shakers here in the creative community, like Fred Ross that I talked about earlier in the Miller Britton documentary. And he said, Karen, I want to know why there isn't a Black person up there. And I went, holy smokes, Clyde. I have no idea, but that's a really good question. So talking to the people that I did in this documentary, I got a lot of interesting perspectives on St. John and where it's been and where it is right now. When I was here back in 1985, when we had the Canada Games, people before the Canada Games were embarrassed to say they were from St. John. It was the drive-by province. It was, I think we called it Surf City, but they would say things like, gee, you cross the Reversing Falls Bridge and did Casey Irving take his sneakers off? It stinks because of the pulp mill. Just not a lot of pride. And whatever it was about the Canada Games, all of a sudden people said, I'm really proud of St. John. St. John really has some neat things, and we built the aquatic center and so on and so forth. So then fast forward to where it is right now. Again, I'm going back because I'm giving you lots of thoughts of what it was like to live in St. John. When I was a girl your age, I remember looking at all these beautiful brick buildings, and I had a friend who had an art studio on Canterbury. And back then she said, why is it that they don't have condos and they don't have people living and having rooftop patios like they do in Montreal? And I said, I have no idea. They should. They should. And now it's happening, which is really fantastic. Look at where Kate lives. She has a beautiful building where she can actually go to the rooftop and have a barbecue and have a party. How many people have rooftop patios downtown?
Right. Well, more than they did.
Yeah.
It took several decades, but we're here. We've
Yeah.
reached the point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
So what about when it came to like you chose the 20 people, you started doing the interviews. So how did you put together the story? How did you put that together? Because I know what I know about it, but I'm curious of, what the general public kind of will know.
Well, I thought in order to tell a story, I had to talk to people that had a story, and I wanted to shed light on things behind the scenes of some of these events, for example, of things that people didn't know. For example, Sarah Jones, who has Jones Gallery, at the time that I did the documentary, she was I believe, the coordinator for Catapult Arts Link. And what that is it's a program that the provincial government, and I think they get some federal money too, where they teach artists how to be sustainable in their living. They teach them how to start a business. Um, because a lot of people, if they're artists, but they don't know anything about business, like how to make money. So she tells people how you can apply for grants and get money so that if you do have a project, you can apply to different grants and you can make these things happen. Well, I knew that because I talked to her. If I didn't talk to her, I wouldn't have known it. So there's so many other people that I thought that will look at this documentary and say, hey, really? These things are free. I just have to apply, and they're going to teach me how to apply for grants to the government. And I know several people that are artists that get, say, $5,000, which helps them launch whatever their project might be, which is pretty cool. The other thing is with these music festivals, for example, one of my people that I know in this creative community, Abigail Smith, she formed Show Buddies. So what's Show Buddies? Show Buddies is it's a behind the scenes security program, I guess you would call it, that would enable anybody that attends a music festival, they can attend it without being harassed. Because believe it or not, it's hard to believe in this day and age, but it still happens. People get bullied. They go to a music festival, and if they look a little different, some bullies will come along and pick on them. So the Show Buddies, they're identified with pink t-shirts, and they go over and they say, are you having a problem with anybody? And they kind of stop any kind of fighting. So who even knew that was even around at festivals? Did you know it?
Yeah, we've talked, like we've had Abby on the show a couple times when Quality Block was what was happening back in the good old days when there was live shows.
I also want to make a plug though about Show Buddies. They're not necessarily just for harassment. I mean, here's an example. I've gone to countless shows. Some of my friends gone to get a drink or use the bathroom or go have a cigarette or something. And hey, most of the time I'm fine just to tune out. But maybe if the song doesn't catch my ear, I start to maybe have a little bit of anxiety. I'm not with my crew and I see a familiar face, and they don't necessarily need to, hold on to me or anything, but they're there to chat me up. So they're not necessarily there to kind of bring the hammer down, but they're there to be your pal as well. They're there to be a buddy at a show. And I think that's really amazing because also we have a lot of young people going to some of these shows, all ages shows, which, a result of, people rolling their sleeves up and trying to figure out innovative ways to make it, able to happen.
Right.
And I think like that is a way that, parents can also feel better about, their kids going out to shows and making sure that, there's no illegal drug use or alcohol happening. So, I mean, I've known a ton of people volunteer to be show buddies, and I think they're awesome. So if you're a show buddy, props to you. We love you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. So it's really nice to have Abby talk about the Show Buddies in the film, because not a lot of people know about it. Because you're plugged in and you go to the music festivals and stuff. Another aspect of the film is I wanted to talk to people like, let's just take, for example, Casey Wilcox and Emily Sabb. As you know, they have visitors and they're both artists. So as artists, how are they going to make a living? So they took a program through Catapult, and it taught them how to have a sustainable business. So they went to the St. John Tool Library and took a place that they rented on, what's the name of that street that they're on?
Union.
Yeah, on Union. And they made an art gallery out of it and a vintage clothing store out of it. So they have money coming in at the same time that they're doing their art projects. And if they didn't take this, say, Catapult program, they may not have had the knowledge or the experience in order to do something like that. So that was kind of very cool to hear their story. And then I interviewed Gordy Tufts from Backstreet Records. He is an institution. He's been around for 40 years. And anybody who collects records like yourself know him. He's iconic. I graduated with Gordy, so I know him pretty well. And his family's pretty cool too. So it was people like this in the creative in our community in the city that I wanted people that aren't in the creative community would know what's going on
Right.
in Uptown.
Right. One thing I wanted to ask, which is a little bit, well, it's still on topic, but
Are you the one who asked the real zinger? Because
Oh,
Kate doesn't have the nerve to ask it because she's afraid to ask me.
Oh no, that's the zinger's coming. But can you tell me about how did you?
Don't ask me my weight.
No. I was curious about how did you land on the title for this document?
Okay, that's a very good question because I was really hung up. How hard would it be to come up with a title for interviewing the art community and why St. John is such a happening, cool place to be? How do you find a title? Well, I thought, well, as I interview people, people are going to say something. And when they say it, there's going to be a quote, and that's going to be the title. And so many times, like, for example, Jody Clifford, who was one of the co-founders of Moon Bazaar, he came up with these amazing quotes. And I thought, oh, we're going to use this because Jody is very articulate and he just was bang on with some of the things that he said. But it just still didn't grab me. So one time I was talking to a friend and I said, look, you're an amazing writer. Like you write very well. Why don't you dig deep way down wherever you do and try to come up with a title that I can use for this film? So they said, okay, I'll see what I can do. And so then they mentioned the Rolling Stones' first album, Highest Tides and Green Grass, introducing like the Rolling Stones. And I thought, oh my God, I love it. I love it. So I went with Highest Tides. Who has the highest tides in the world? Who?
We did, us.
St. John,
Right.
New Brunswick. We have the highest tides in the world. That's pretty good bragging rights. Then I thought, highest tides in green grass. Well, what does green grass mean? Green grass.
Well, it can mean several things, but I imagine.
Tell me. Well, green grass, for example, what's the best neighborhood that you could live in? Well, the grass is always greener on the other side, right?
Right.
So if you think of green grass, you can think of green grass, the best place to be. And at the time, civilization was here big in St. John. Mm-hmm. So green grass could mean leave it up to your imagination, right? Or green grass could be the best place to be. So I'm saying St. John is the greenest grasses in St. John. So highest tides and greenest grass, introducing St. John's newest Hitmakers. Hitmakers means music. So why are you hung up on Hitmakers? And I said, Hitmakers doesn't mean the top 10 hit parade. Hitmakers could be people who are chance takers who score a hit in an idea. because you know how people say that's not a very good idea, but really it is a good idea, but it takes a lot of work.
Mm.
So I just thought Highest Tides in Greengrass, introducing St. John's newest Hitmakers, totally describes where we live. I mean, we're surrounded by the river, we're surrounded by the bay. So St. John is the best place to be. Look at how many people have, like Don Darling's done an amazing job talking to people in Toronto and saying, why are you there when you could be here? Sell your $600,000 townhouse or whatever, come to St. John, and you will have the best schools, you'll have a beautiful community, and you'll have extra money left over from the house that you sold in Toronto, and you don't have to lock your doors at night necessarily.
Right.
So
Showing true.
it's
I still have this on my fridge.
well, do you know what? When I first met you, Kate, I remember thinking, that girl, like, what is she doing in St. John? Like, that just discounts everything that I just said. And I said the same thing to Greg Hemmings. I said the same thing to Greg Hemmings because in my fundraiser, It's a Girl Thing, the original in 2003, I had to be plugged in because I was media and I knew all the new businesses that were happening in the city and so on and so forth. So when Greg started at Hemmings House, I thought, I got to get this guy to do a talk at It's a Girl Thing. And when I had him there, I said, why aren't you out in Hollywood, California? Like, why do you think that you could do a big film company here in St. John, New Brunswick? Like, not a lot of people have ever done that before. And he did it. So I thought that was so amazing. So when I first met Kate and saw like how she was with media and just how she was in general, I thought this girl is over the top for St. John, New Brunswick. She needs to go to a bigger city where they can recognize her potential and she can make bigger bucks. But because she loves St. John, New Brunswick,
Yeah.
she stayed. And that's so fantastic because Greg Hemmings rather could go anywhere, but he stayed. And a lot of these people that I interviewed here, they could go other places and probably get a bigger paycheck, but they stayed here, and thank God they did, because we're so much better as a result of it, right?
Mm. Oh,
So that's where the name came from, Highest Tides and Greenest Grass, introducing St. John's newest Hitmakers, because they all scored a hit as far as I'm concerned.
Right. And I love how this wonderful poster for the documentary is still, it's very psychedelic. It still it has like that Stones 60s vibe. So I appreciate it.
Well, do you know how that came about? I thought I would save myself some money, and I went on this app so that I could create my own poster. And so I got on Canva or whatever it was, and I was creating the poster, and I thought, you know what? I'm in way over my head. I need to get somebody that knows what they're doing. So I remember seeing the Quality Block Music Festival posters and just loving them. I thought, these posters are amazing. I just love them. And I would keep them and put them in my bedroom because they were art, like they just looked so good. So I asked a friend, I said, do you think it would be okay if I contacted this person and had them do the poster for Highest Tide and Greenest Grass? And they said, hello, yes, they would love for you to contact them. So I contacted Judd Crandall and I said, this is the thing. This is my vision, but you're the person who's skilled. You're the person who knows what you're doing. I would like to have a poster reflect my film. So the Hitmakers are going to be superheroes. I think of maybe cartoon characters and they've got a cape and it says Hitmakers on them. And they're looking up to the sky, and on the clouds, you're going to have these people that I interviewed for the film. And I gave them all these crazy ideas of, and like stars and all this stuff. And I said, but this is your project. I'm easy to get along with. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Just go do your magic. So he did. And he came back with this. And he put in the high tides, which is the blue. He put in the green grass. And then he did the people looking up and like the rainbow and everything. And I thought, oh my God, I couldn't even imagine it being any better. And he was so much fun to deal with because he has like these really good old-fashioned manners from the old school, like just so polite and just so, he was just a really pleasure to work with. So that was a real joy. A joyful part of the film that I remember is the little time that I spent with Judd doing this poster. And so that's the story on the poster.
It's always nice to see some of your project visions come to life, and it's hard sometimes to let go. We've had our fair share of that, but it's so much fun when somebody produces something for you that just over goes your expectations. And we kind of had that with our logo. And when we seen it, it was just like, okay, this is it. And then when we were able to get it, digitized, and it everything just fit. So sometimes it's, and in my background, like with marketing, I always say get another perspective, because just because you might think something doesn't mean necessarily your audience or your customer sees it that way. And ultimately, I mean, this next part that we'll get into, I mean, when you're renting theaters and you're putting things in place like safety protocols, and you're marketing a film, it takes a little bit of capital, right? So it's important to get the word out, right, and have a good poster and a good event that gets the word out. So can you tell us a little bit about where people can see the film and when and how to get tickets?
So excited.
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to tell you, because I talked to people all along, and initially it was going to be at Rogue Coffee. And then the pandemic threw a wrench into that. And so then I thought, Karen, you always think big. So if you're going to do a film, where would be a place where you could have the most people go and see the film on a big screen? No brainer, Imperial Theater. And the Imperial Theater is endearing to me because my best friend's brother, Jack McDougall, many years ago, he bought the Imperial Theater for $1, and he raised money from the community to renovate it totally to where it is today. And in the film, I've acknowledged Jack for doing that, because this is somebody that's a chance taker, an idea maker, a dream maker, who said, that Imperial Theater should not go to demolition. We need to revitalize it. So he coordinated with all the community and millions of dollars, and to bring it to the gem that it, and the jewel that it is here today. So that's kind of where I decided that I would have it at the Imperial Theater, even though the St. John Theater Company could have done just as good a job. But I needed, at the time before the pandemic, I was hoping, like James Mullinger, to fill the place. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So if you're going to do something, you want to do it big. You want to dream big. And the funny thing is, with artists and creators, a lot of people, when you tell them your vision or what you want to do, they're like, cuckoo. Oh yeah, you're going to do this? Okay. So you got to put your mouth where your money is and just make it happen. And you make it happen if you have good relationships and good connections with people. Because every single person that I called to ask them if I could have an interview, not one person said no.
Right.
So that's how working together, you can make great things happen. For example, you wouldn't have Strange Grooves if you didn't have people that uh, when you ask them if they would go on Strange Grooves. How many people say no? Nobody. They consider it an honor
They'd be silly gooses if they did.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Decline these hoes. Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna say if people did say no, we'd probably still do the show, but people might get just sick of it being just us.
Unless we get a little bit spicy.
You know, we just up the spice.
Yeah.
That's all I do, Karen.
No bikinis though,
No.
yet. We're not there yet.
That's a Patreon package.
Maybe when it's like the big bucks, then we'll do that. If you're listening and you have the big bucks, I mean, feel free to send us a DM. We'll take the money. Our project is also growing for those that are listening.
Insert Patreon pitch.
Yeah, I mean, really though. But you know, the one thing I will say too about Imperial, and I know like pandemic has thrown it off, but Charisse and I, we've gone to a couple of shows the last 6 months at Imperial. And I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed them more now than I did before. They're safe, they're accessible, they're like a lot of space, still a ton of snacks. You get to see your pals in a socially distant way. You don't get beer spilled all over you unless you're clumsy. But I mean, the pros of that show, even when they were throwing some quality block shows there, were profoundly amazing because it opened up to a whole other way to be inclusive of an audience. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the film there. I know Mallory Kelly, she works at the box office still, and they're showing movies there every second night. Like Dirty Harry's playing this week, Matilda.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool because we haven't really had a theater uptown in a long time that actually just showed movies that often. So if you're listening and maybe you haven't gotten tickets yet, which you really should because they're starting to be limited now at this point, get them now because you'd be also a silly goose to not get them.
We'll link out in the show notes and on the blog.
Yeah, they're $20, right, Karen? Yeah, $20. You know, I think if you, I don't know, even just a night out with a pal, grab a Kit Kat and like come see like a lot of dope people doing great things. It's an inspiration and I think a lot of us need it. And I'm really proud of you for making it because it takes a lot of work. It can be bananas sometimes. There's always 10 more interviews you could squeeze in, I'm sure. And, you know.
Yeah, I want to speak on that. There are so many people that I wish that I could have included, but the movie as it stands is an hour and 20 minutes. And the reason it's an hour and 20 minutes is because I thought if anybody was going to take the time to give me their time so that I could interview them, they're not going to end up on the cutting room floor. So everybody got in and I feel very proud of that. So then when you're talking about going to the Imperial Theater, and it would be so great just to get together with your friends because of this pandemic and so on and so forth and feel safe. We need this. I don't know how many people have come to me and said, okay, Karen, when are we going to have our dinner party? And I say, well, we can't really anytime soon because you're not in my bubble because you only have 10 people, right? So the great thing about the Imperial Theater is they have it so down to the protocol, socially distanced, that you have one row and then another row where there's nobody. So you can only sit with your bubble and you have your mask on. And if you want to take your mask off, you're so far away from everybody else that you actually can do that. So I think April 25th, you know, hopefully that's going to happen. And even if it doesn't happen, the great thing about the Imperial Theater is they'll just postpone it to another date.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure that, you know, with the audience resonating with it, you know, there could always be, you know, maybe another showing, maybe a Highest Tides, Greenest Grass part 2 a couple of years from now. Who knows, right? You never.
There could be. I know some of my friends said, why don't you have sponsors? Like, why don't you go out and talk to some of the corporations and companies and see if they'll sponsor it? And I thought, you know what? I did that my whole career as a media rep. Like, this is just something that's a retirement project that I wanted to celebrate the people that make St. John that happening, fun place that it is. And well, you're part of it. I mean, you're in the interview as well, as you know. So that's kind of that was kind of what I wanted to do. Am I going to do a part two? Who knows? Like, are you going to go on the road with strange groups?
Who knows?
Exactly. I mean, never say never. I mean, you just don't know.
An organic approach is good with anything, because then you start to understand what it is that you have rather than try to business plan the shit out of it at first. Sometimes it's better just to, I mean, that's what we've done.
Just let it grow.
Let it grow. And then once you kind of start to have a little bit of data and kind of know what your audience is and know what people get from it, then you kind of start to know what product you have. And I'm sorry to use this, but if it will scale, right? But it's true. And I think, this film, it's going to be awesome. April 25th. If you haven't got your tickets, please get them, because again, they are going to be limited. It's limited seating now at Imperial. And I think if everybody in the film is going, plus if you haven't got it, you should probably get a ticket. So yeah, get a friggin' ticket. $20. It's going to be a really good show. It's also a great gift. I mean, maybe you can't make it, but you can buy a ticket and send it to someone that would maybe like to go with one of their pals. That's certainly my goal. I'm going to probably do that for a couple of my pals.
There you go. Great gift.
But yeah, so if you're listening, please go and hang out with us. We're going to be at the show. It's going to be a great show. And it's early too. I think it's at 2:00.
Love it. Love that.
Yeah, I picked Sunday afternoon because there wasn't an evening available. So, because I had planned in my imagination, I thought, okay, we're going to roll out the red carpet. So when I asked them about, could I put a red carpet outside? They said, well, because of insurance reasons, that may not be a good idea to put a red carpet outside. So then I thought, out at East Point Shopping, they have those great big strobe lights. Could we get strobe lights to happen on the Imperial Theater as we're walking in? Like just all kinds of fun things. Like how could you make it? Are we going to get dressed up in Hollywood prom clothing and all that? Like, what you do when you're using your imagination. Well, it turned out that it was going to be Sunday afternoon. Well, everybody, usually if you're very busy, Sunday afternoon is the time when you have a little bit of free time. And just to regress a little bit, Nicole Kidman, the actress, has a child named Sunday. And she explained to someone during an interview, the reason why she called her daughter Sunday is because when she was a singleton, the hardest day of the week for her was Sunday, because as a single person, when you don't have your own husband and family and children or whatever, she thought Sundays, some days can be lonely. So when she met her husband, Sundays weren't lonely anymore. They were happy. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I'm pumped for an early film on a Sunday. I'm going to go to Tops before.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a burger. And then I'm going to go to the show, and it's going to be great. I'm going to have a nice little smoke. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. Is it April 25th yet?
Right. I'm looking forward to all that. And it's in the spring too.
It'll be nice.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. We're looking forward to it, Karen. So thank you so much for telling us about the film.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your life to
we have one
come
question for you. We're not
what?
We have one more question.
There's
for
that
you.
zinger that we.
Oh no! You're not going to ask me if I color my hair or what my weight is.
I don't. Not anymore.
No. All right. You're on a desert island, and you can only bring 3 records with you. What will those 3 records be, Karen?
Okay. Well, I know straight off the bat, it would be Carole King's Tapestry.
Yes, celebrating an anniversary.
And the reason for that is I remember when I was babysitting back in my teen day, I would play Carole King's Tapestry over and over and sing it. And anytime I hear that, it just reminds me of one of my happiest times. This sounds corny, but when we were growing up, my dad used to take us to a record store, and my 3 top albums were Mary Poppins, My Fair Ladies, and The Sound of Music. So I don't want to sound like a nerd, so I better come up with my other 2. Okay, so I love Bob Dylan. I love Petulia Clark, The Supremes, Dionne Warwick, Cicely Tyson, ABBA, Stevie Nicks, James Taylor, Herman Hermits. I love the Monkees. I love the Beach Boys, Buffy St. Marie, Cat Stevens. Like, how can I pick the other two?
Oh, that's the thing. Like you got to. I'm
You
being
got it.
generous
Yeah.
with giving you 3.
Yeah.
So we also.
Okay. I gave you one.
Yeah.
Waylon Jennings, Joni Mitchell, The Doors, The Clash, Gordy Lightfoot. Okay. So I got 2 more.
Get 2 more.
Okay. So 2 more. I knew you were going to ask this and I should have written something down. Okay, so I'm going to pick the Beatles.
Okay, what one?
What's that one with the walrus in it?
Magical Mystery Tour.
Okay, I'm going to pick the Magical Mystery Tour. And then I'm going to pick Cat Stevens, Tea for the Tillerman.
Excellent.
Cool. Yeah.
Solid. That's a solid 3.
Yeah, that's a nice island.
Love it.
That's a nice island.
I'd be on that island.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me what your 3 are before you go. You're going to get a zinger as well.
Okay. All right. Mine's been changing lately. So we're going to have, I've been going through some shit. So Fleetwood Mac's Rumors is my first one.
Of course. I know you're going to say Kenny Tobias.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Kenny.
Okay, no. So yeah, Ken Tobias' Dream number 2 because I've been listening to that one a bunch for research. And I'm going to say again, because I'm going through some shit, it's Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks, which has always been a staple. I'm pretty sure that's been mentioned in every single episode. Yeah,
I saw Bob Dylan twice in St. John.
Oh, really? I saw him once in St. John and twice in the States.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, what about you, Kate? You don't get off the hook.
Okay, what's your updates?
Steely Dan, Royal Scam.
Hello, of course you're going to say Steely Dan. That's as bad as Chuck Healy saying Neil Diamond.
I know. Yeah, so do I get another one? Okay.
Yep.
So Steely Dan, Royal Scam. Boston, their first album. And then it's a toss-up right now for me. I would probably say Primus, the Brown album, or, and this would be like, I'm getting on the plane and I have to ditch one. Talking Heads Stop Making Sense. That would be my 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Too bad we couldn't have their music playing in the background as we fade out.
Yeah, and then I could
Right.
just like maybe make a ditch effort. Yeah. Yeah, I feel, yeah, I don't know. Those kind of always stick with me. Yeah. so-
Awesome. Well, listen, ladies, thank you so much for giving me the shot in the arm of, well, I'm very excited. I mean, it's going to be here before we know it. So wonderful to see spring peeking around the corner.
Yes.
And it was very nice to invite you into my Zoom world.
We love
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Well, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for joining us, and keep it strange.
Okay, keep it strange.
Keep it strange.